Welcome to EDU World Space.
First, we know that we have the given information, and with my pen, just so that I don't have to rewrite everything, we know that goes into the first statement. And now let's talk about what it actually would mean. If NQ is bisecting angle PNR, that would mean that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. That's the definition of bisect. That's what it means to cut it into congruent parts. And now, if the lines are parallel, NQ and MR, then we have, for instance, angle 2 and angle M would be congruent because they're corresponding. So I'm going to say corresponding angles congruent when the lines are parallel along the transversal. There's a theorem that's associated with it. It's going to be involved with its name, corresponding. And in a similar way, we know that angle 1 would be congruent to angle R because of alternate interior angles are congruent with parallel lines. Alternate interior angles, which then would mean that angle M and R are congruent, because if angle M is congruent to 2 and 2 is congruent to 1, and that's congruent to R, they're all sort of interchangeable. You could say substitution, you could use the transitive property. And then I'm going to finish over here on the side. That would mean triangle MNR is isosceles. And the reason for that would be the definition of isosceles triangle. Actually, it would be the isosceles triangle theorem converse. The isosceles triangle theorem says that if two sides of the triangle are congruent, then two angles are congruent, the converse. Converse of the isosceles triangle theorem. The converse says that if two angles are congruent, then the two sides are congruent. So I'm saying the isosceles triangle theorem. Okay, and number 6, again, I'm just going to say all of that goes into the first statement, given. We want to prove that CD and BE are congruent. When we have AE is parallel to BD, if those are parallel, then we would have, for instance, angle CBD congruent to angle BAE. Those are corresponding angles. We know that if B is the midpoint of AC, by the definition of midpoint, BC is congruent to BA. And we also know that angle E and angle D are congruent. And so by angle side, two angles on the non-included sides, triangle CBD is congruent to triangle BAE. Oh. Again, the reason for number 3 is the definition of midpoint. We have angle side for the reason the triangles are congruent, which would make CD congruent to BE by CPCTC. Those are corresponding parts of congruent triangles, so they are congruent.